Hey, what's going on, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Baseball Adjacent. I am your host, Taco Josh. That right there is America's pitching coach. It is Justin Arth, and today, once again, we are being pessimists. If you watch the National League version of this, you already know. We're going to tell you the reason that your team or your American League playoff team will not win the World Series now that the playoffs are set. There's 6 of them. Timestamps will be in the description as you watch. And hey, hit that subscribe button. We're dangerously close to 100 subscribers. I would love to hit that here in the next week or two. That would be pretty awesome. Shameless self plug. But Justin, how are we feeling about the American League as a whole?
It may not be Shark Week, but because the American League logo is red, I'm feeling blood in the water, and I'm ready to tell you why your American League team is not winning the World Series. So, hey, let's get into it and talk about the American League and why all these teams suck and will not be winning the World Series.
Let's talk about the American League as a whole. I guess we touched on this a little bit in the last video, so we'll touch on it to begin this video also. There's not like a super unbeatable team. There's not a juggernaut where last year it felt like it was going to be Yankees, Dodgers. This year, every single team we're looking at here is pretty beatable, which is kind of the origin or the genesis of this idea.
Yeah, absolutely. Whether your name's the Seattle Mariners, who I personally think are the best team in the American League, or you're the worst team scratching and clawing to get in like the Detroit Tigers after you almost collapsed. I think it's just the gap is wide open here for the American League. The Yankees have a lot of issues. The Seattle Mariners, again, are good on paper, but haven't performed as well pitching wise. So, can they win a World Series? Are they cursed? And then you've got a bunch of teams in there like Boston who seem to be really good, but they're not experienced. Can they do it? And so there's a lot of teams here that the window's kind of wide open for you to now take advantage of a Yankee team that is not very good. And then I haven't even mentioned the 1 seed in the Toronto Blue Jays. Like it's crazy. And the Toronto Blue Jays aren't even far and away better than everybody because the Yankees just missed out on the 1 seed by pretty much a half a game. So American League's wide open and anybody can take this thing.
Yeah, it's gonna be real interesting to watch here in the next month or so, however long it takes to get to the end of the World Series. But I mean, this is true. We talk in the American League. We talked about in the National League. It's also true. It makes for a really compelling postseason when you don't really have that juggernaut overall. But I guess without wasting too much time, let's get into some of the teams. The 1 seed, the best team in the American League is your Toronto Blue Jays. They are 94 and 68. They just edge out the New York Yankees, who are also 94 and 68, but the Blue Jays have the tiebreaker, so they are the 1 seed. Give me a reason the Blue Jays will not win the World Series.
It is the pitching for the Toronto Blue Jays, and it kind of comes at a very bad time because now Chris Bassett and Jose Barrios are both on the IL with injuries. Those are guys that have contributed for your season. Gossman is back in the rotation now after spending a lot of time hurt. And again, Gossman's been okay, but he needs to be better come postseason. Max Scherzer, you can tell, has completely aged. Like he's the one that should be announcing retirement instead of like Clayton Kershaw, but he's not. He's in the postseason. He's going to be in a postseason rotation. Trey Savage is a rookie, as we've mentioned in the in the National League section. Trey Savage is a supreme talent. Is going to be a really good pitcher in baseball, but I don't think I want to trust a rookie in the postseason, especially to get innings as probably your 2 or your 3 starter. So I don't necessarily trust that either. And then who knows what we're really going to get out of Shane Bieber? He's been good, but it scares me come postseason just because it's not been that long since he's come back from season-ending surgery and coming back in into the fold and things like that. And then from an offensive perspective, really good offensive team, but Bo Bichette's probably going to be out for a little bit as well. So I think the offense can sustain. That's why I don't say the offense because the offense I think are going to continue to mash whether Bo Bichette is in there or not, or whether Bo Bichette's in the lineup and struggling or not. But I do think the pitching is the biggest question mark. The bullpen is okay. Jeff Hoffman is a good reliever, but has been very leaky at times. Is Jeff Hoffman going to be shut down like he has been at like 2 weeks at a time? or is he going to kind of go on like a 3 week heater where he's really kind of leaking runs left and right and blowing saves? So I think for the Toronto Blue Jays, they're kind of in a position where they didn't expect that they were going to be as the 1 seed in the American League, and they need the time to rest up, get guys off the IL. But I don't think they're going to have enough time. And if they don't have pitching in the playoffs, you don't advance.
Yeah, it's tough, right? I think the team is shockingly young looking at the ages, right?
Yeah.
It's George Springer is the experience here, and then your next oldest guy is like Nathan Lukes is 30, and then everybody else is, 28 or younger, 27 or younger. And that's a group of young guys, right? And to contrast that, the Phillies, most everybody is in their 30s or beyond, right? Especially in that starting lineup. So I think the youth is great, but I do wonder, and I think your thing is valid, so I'll just piggyback off of you. The pitching is a concern, right? That's the whole. Can you outslug that in the postseason? You can. It's hard, but you can potentially. And this lineup that they have, could potentially do that, right? Kirk is a damn good offensive catcher. Vladdy is great, right? I mean, Schneider, Barger. You could go down the list of guys. All these guys are incredible baseball guys. George Springer quietly has had 161 OPS plus this year. He's one of the best offensive guys in baseball. He played 140 games. Uh, can that lineup outmatch the pitching problems? I think there's potential they can for a minute, but I don't know if they can all the way to a World Series. So your 2 seed here is the 90-win Seattle Mariners, just as we all suspected would be at the beginning of the season. They have been quite good lately. They have jumped Houston, and actually, Houston's not even in the playoffs. But so Seattle is the AL West representative. I don't think we would have predicted that at the beginning of the year. I think we thought it was going to be a 3-horse race between Texas, Houston, Seattle. Texas obviously didn't pan out for a lot of reasons. Houston got kind of cold late and just games did not break the way they needed to at the end. They weren't good enough at the beginning of the year to overcome that. And Seattle is now here, and they're the 2 seed. They have a bye. What are you looking at for this team?
Yeah, so here's where I'm going to go with my cheesy answer. The only thing that can stop the Seattle Mariners and the reason why they will not win a World Series is themselves. The curse that is on Seattle, as I might would say. I think they are the most complete team in the American League from AL should be AL MVP Cal Raleigh, Julio Rodriguez is the talent that he is. Playoff Arena since it's playoffs now. Naylor, Suarez, Polanco, J.P. Crawford. That is a deep, deep lineup. You have Kevin Seitzer as your hitting coach, has turned around that offense. I've seen what a Kevin Seitzer offense can do as an Atlanta Braves fan. On paper, your rotation of Wu, Castillo, Gilbert, Kirby, Miller, Hancock. Those are guys that, again, have all been really good. Now, I do think there is something to question the rotation a little bit because we've always known Seattle over the last 2 or 3 years as like, you are the pitching factory. You are like the best team in baseball pitching. And all of those guys, other than Brian Wu, have taken a step back this year. But a lot of them are young enough, or like a Castillo again has baseball cards to say that he's been there, done that. A lot of these guys now come postseason where games matter. I think they'll be fine. They just need to raise their level of expectation. The back half of the bullpen: Brash, Brizardo, Spear, Ferguson, and heck, even Luke Jackson. That's a still pretty good bullpen that you could have thrown out there. The pitching's been above average, even though it's not been to their standard. And so the only thing that can really stop themselves is if the Mariners truly are cursed, if they just disappear randomly and do not show up whatsoever. Their lineup is deep. Their team is deep, their rotation is deep, their bullpen's deep. This is a team that could very well win the World Series, and they just need to show up when the DS starts. They don't need this little wild card hangover that all these teams are starting to get when they get the bye. They need to find a way to keep themselves locked in offensively so they can go out and shove whoever they're playing in that first round. So the only thing stopping them is themselves.
I worry about the starting pitching, and I know that's an insane thing to say for Seattle, Brian Wu is coming back from injury, right? And the time off helps, but the last update was just a few days ago, and the biggest step he's had is he played catch. And I don't know that that's indicative of he's going to be able to start game one like you would hope if you're Seattle, right? The other guys, like you said, have been good on paper, but they haven't exactly been incredible this season statistically, right? Luis Castillo has kind of taken a step back. Logan Gilbert has not been dominant per se. George Kirby has taken a step back. And I wonder without Brian Wu what that looks like. The bullpen is maybe one of the best in the postseason. I mean, I would cite Boston. I would take Boston's over this, but I mean, Andres Munoz is a shutdown ninth inning guy, and that matters in the postseason, right? If you can bring in your guy with a 1 run lead in the ninth and know, hey, we are probably going to win this game 95% of the time, that's a great thing to have. And Seattle has that. The lineup kind of bangs, obviously. It's kind of like the inverse of every Seattle team we've ever seen, where we are questioning, man, can they put up 3 runs so the pitching can comprehend life? Um, this time it's the opposite. It's can the pitching allow less than like 4 or 5? And, I kind of
Yeah.
trust the offense will be able to comprehend a little bit because the offense is kind of deep.
Yeah, they are. And going back to the bullpen side, like blanked over Munoz in my notes, but yeah, you've got one of the better closers in baseball at the back end of that too. So can the pitching get it to that? They have taken a step back, and again, I still feel like it is themselves are the only things that can stop them.
Yeah. Yeah, I worry about the buy. I guess if you gave me like a second one, I would say the buy would be a problem because it feels like for the hitting teams, especially, that has been a problem in the past where you rely on the bats and then you have 4 days off till game one, maybe 5 days off even till game one, and then you come out a little flat. Um, yeah, I worry about the starting pitching a little bit on that team. Your number 3 seed here is American League Central's own Cleveland, who somehow, against all odds, has won the Central. They're 88-74. They host Detroit, a team that they just beat out for the division. They have walked off their last 2 games against the Texas Rangers on a walk-off hit by pitch, which put them in the postseason, and then a walk-off extra innings home run, which won them the division. What are you seeing here for Cleveland?
I'm seeing that maybe they've peaked too early. I know their final 2 games have been walk-offs, but the games before that where they almost then blew their amazing 15 and a half game comeback kind of scares me. They were performing amazingly offensively for what, the last 2 months or whatever of the season. Their pitching was really, really good the last 2 months of the season, but they've also had 4 months of being really, really bad offensively. So my question is, have they peaked too early? Is this a team that does not have any more momentum now going into the postseason because maybe they used all the magic up too early? I mean, you look at what they're going to have pitching wise. It's okay. Like Gavin Williams is good. Tanner Bybee is good. But are they a 1 or 2 starter in the postseason type good? Do you feel good about them being your 2 or 3, but you don't have someone to be your 1? Messick, again, a rookie in the postseason. Allen, Saccone, they're guys that have not necessarily performed well. Taking it right on back to the offense, they only have 4 players on their active roster that have a 100 plus WRC plus according to Fangraphs, and that is for their season stats. And one of those names is not Stephen Kwan. So
Yeah.
the thing is, it's Jose Ramirez and everybody else, and that again includes Stephen Kwan. So an offense that has taken steps back, has not performed very well, is a big question mark. And if they've run out of this magic that they kind of had going for them the last 2 months, it may not be enough to get back past Detroit like they've kind of dominated Detroit in the last 2 weeks of the season. Detroit's got a fire now because they're playing them. And if they've peaked too early, this might be Detroit, if they can get hot, that might be the thing that puts the nail in the coffin for Cleveland and that's historic run to get into the postseason.
Yeah, if you watch the National League version of this, we talked about the Reds' offense is maybe the worst in the postseason. I would say the Guardians here hold a candle to that. This is just, it's not a good lineup. I said it in the last podcast. I said it in the short. I'll say it again. Everyone's going to cite the run differential of like, it's, I don't know. They're like the little engine that just pops out games when they really shouldn't be. Um, and they can't score runs. There's not a produce like if Jose Ramirez slumps, it's over, right? If Jose
Yeah.
Ramirez doesn't hit 450 in the postseason, they have legitimately no chance, in my opinion, unless like a bunch of guys have out of body experiences. I'm looking at Manzardo is better than he was even in the regular season, or Gabriel Arias is starting to figure it out, or anybody else. But I don't really trust. I In my estimation, and this is going to sound harsh, this is not like a great team. I think there are teams. This may be the worst overall team in the postseason, and that's going to bite me in the ass here when they go on a run. But I worry about the whole team. The whole team is not great, but I'm just going to cite the offense because that's going to be the thing that we can circle. It feels like, was it last year, 2 years ago, they went the entire like wild card and they scored like one run or two runs or
Yeah.
something.
This
It
feels like one that they could very well score 0.
Yeah, I just I don't know. It worries me pretty greatly. I could just repeat myself over and over again, but we're gonna leave it there and move on to the number 4 seed, who was almost the number 1 seed, but because of how the rankings work, they're behind Cleveland, and it's the New York Yankees who get to host a playoff series. They host the Boston Red Sox. The Yankees went 94-68. Obviously, they have the best hitter in the American League, certainly in Aaron Judge, a 200 OPS plus guy. Go look at the listed names that has 200 OPS plus in multiple seasons. It's not a lot of them. All right, we can argue, is it an AL MVP winning season or not in a different video because we've already made that video. So we're not going to do it here. But when you look at this team, what do you kind of see?
There's 2 pieces of low-hanging fruit, but I'm gonna take, a copy and paste basically from their big market West Coast, rivals, I guess you could say, or their copycat team over on the West Coast, in the LA Dodgers. I feel like for the Yankees, the biggest reason why they are not going to win the World Series is their bullpen, and I know it's low-hanging fruit, but their bullpen's just not good. I know the offense can scare you a little bit too, but they have pieces that mash. I mean, Judge, Grisham, Chisholm Jr., Bellinger, Rice, Stanton, Wells, McMahon, all are over 20 home runs. Is a lot of that Yankee Stadium effect playing 81 games there, or for McMahon playing what 40 or 50 games there or something post deadline? Yes, it is kind of little league ballpark esque there. But then offensively, they do strike out a bit too much for my liking for a team that's going to go deep in the postseason. But I think your rotation is solid enough at the top end with Max Fried and Carlos Rodon, and then you could have some semblance of Will Warren or Cam Schlittler or guys like that to step up and be something for you. So again, maybe a little too top heavy of a rotation, but even despite all of that, and the defensive problems with Volpe and all this other kind of stuff that we've talked about all year with the Yankees, I still think Devin Williams, Luke Weaver, David Bednar, and Camilo Duvall, 4 names that if you said those are the back four in your bullpen, you're like, oh, we're a World Series champion. What are we talking about?
Mm-hmm.
Like all 4 of those guys has not been good. I mean, David Bednar has good stats for the overall regular season, despite being really bad to start in Pittsburgh, kind of got it right, and then got to New York and was pretty bad again, and then kind of got it right towards the end. Like they've been better, but Devin Williams is like the airbender's not bending. It's just being knocked out for 450 Eric Sim dead to deep center blasts. And Luke Weaver's been a little worse than what Luke Weaver was last year when he was a playoff hero. So the thing is, names that should perform in the bullpen are not performing, and if they don't perform, your rotation's not deep enough to go deep into the postseason. So you're going to have to rely on a lineup that has a lot of guys over 20 home runs to mash, and the only one of that I really trust to do so right now is Aaron Judge, and everybody else is just kind of there. So I think everything's still here on the bullpen. And that's why they're going to be eliminated. Is I feel like they're going to be in some games here with the Red Sox, and the Red Sox might be able to put up some runs on that pin when these relievers should be closed down relievers based on the name power that these guys have.
Yeah, I'll go in a totally different direction. I think all of what you said is totally valid. I kind of look at it a little different. Um, it's to me, it's kind of the same thing that we saw last year that we see this year. I mean, last year their big thing was defense was a problem. This year it felt like they attempted to address that a little, and they've gotten arguably worse. I mean, Volpe can't field a baseball right now, right?
Yeah.
Injury or not, it's not at a great level defensively at shortstop, and that's like a pretty premium defensive position. The catching game between Wells and Rice, they don't really control the running game that well. I mean, if Ben Rice is behind the plate at any point, statistically on Baseball Savant, you basically, if you get on first, you are on second.
You're on
Like,
second.
he is incapable of throwing guys out. And I know that's not all on him, and part of that's on the pitchers not holding. All of that, I get it. But it's not like a good brand of baseball out there. It's not good fundamentals. And I know that's like, this guy sounds like an old man. But I think Yankees fans would agree with me in saying, like, I think the lineup's going to mash. I just do. I don't think that's going to be a problem for them. If not Aaron Judge, it'll be Trent Grisham and they'll be fine. Or Jason Dominguez will figure it out. Or Jazz Chisholm will hit a big home run. Or Paul Goldschmidt is going to do good things. And Ben Rice has been really good offensively this year. And Giancarlo Stanton seems to be figuring out. And they still have Cody Bellinger, who I haven't even mentioned yet. All those guys are going to be able to hit. I trust that the pitching is going to be okay enough, but I worry about the fielding behind them. Um, and that's
Yeah.
the I think that's the biggest thing holding them back, fair or not.
Yeah, and when Max Fried is good, he's a ground ball pitcher.
Yeah, and it's all over the field, right? I mean, we've seen the clips of Jason Dominguez just being incapable of finding a fly ball, right? We've seen the clips of Volpe just bouncing throws or throwing them over. And Goldschmidt's a really good defensive first baseman. And he's just and so even with that, it's just not happening. So I don't trust defensively. I saw a tweet early in the year, and there's no shot I'm gonna be able to find it. So if you tweeted this, I guess shout yourself out in the comments, and we'll pin you. But somebody was saying like the Yankees are like the Love Island of baseball, where it is very entertaining, but you should not let your kids watch it because they're gonna pick up bad habits. And I still think that that is true. So whoever tweeted that, thank you for that. Uh, because that's definitely being used in my mind to look at the Yankees, and it worries me pretty greatly. It's a pretty devastating way to play baseball, in my opinion, out in New York. Let's move on. The team they're playing is Boston. They have to go into the Bronx, and that's kind of a tough sell, but it figures to be one of the most watched postseason or at least wild card rounds because two big name teams. The Red Sox are kind of young. They've kind of just they traded Devers. Remember when everybody was like they're tanking, and now they're here. So shout out Boston and the guys that just stepped up for them. What's your big concern for Boston, man?
I think Boston's biggest concern is depth. Uh, they've got all the pieces and the bracket really to go on a run if they can upset the Yankees in the wild card round. I mean, they've got star power in Bregman, Story, and Duran. They've got quality contributors like Yoshida, Rafaela, Abreu, Gonzalez, Refsnyder that have all been pretty good as of late. They've got quality pitching in Crochet, Bayo, Giolito, and then Connerly early that's kind of come out of nowhere in the rotation. And then obviously Aroldis Chapman and Garrett Whitlock and Weissert out of the pen. You've got a solid enough pen there too. I do kind of question like Bayo and Giolito in terms of depth of the rotation. It feels like both of those guys are kind of just running out of gas right now, and that's not they're good pitchers, but they've kind of been relied on as the 2 and the 3 right behind your Garrett Crochet, who's absolutely going to shove. But they're kind of running out of gas right now. But what I really question is the depth of this team and where does the spark truly come from? If anybody's going to get a spark out of this team, it's going to be Alex Cora. So they have the right manager in place. And is it enough to get past the Yankees? And if so, they have to have runs in them. So they and then the Roman Anthony injury I think hurts them as well because I mean with Roman Anthony, they're 19 games over 500. Without Roman Anthony, they're 2 games under 500. Now, there's not a big sample size for the games without Roman Anthony, but 19 games over 500 versus 2 games under 500 is still a big discrepancy there in record. And so I question does Boston have enough depth to go push a Seattle Mariners, to go push the New York Yankees, despite all of the Yankees' issues? So I think on paper they match up with anybody in the American League, especially with the back end of the rotation. But they need their stars to show up and show up big, and then they need to go on a run in a bracket that would favor them if they get past New York.
Yeah, they are a deep lineup. Just kind of looking at it a little bit. I mean, Narvaez is fine. I'd say he's like your average catcher offensively. But then you start to get into like the Trevor Stories and Alex Bregmans of the world, and Jaron Duran is there, and Cedane Rafael has been really good lately. He hit the triple that put the Red Sox in the postseason. And you look at Wilyer Abreu, who's been really good, and Nathaniel Lowe has been shockingly good since he got there, and they have bench guys that have been good. It's the lineup is not the question to me. It is Giolito is out of the wild card round because of that elbow injury. That worries me if they make a deep run. Um, Look, Crochet is a dude, right? He's a bona fide ace. In the National League version of this, we talked about Nick Pivetta is probably the guy, one of the guys that you would look at to pick if you were given all the pitchers and you were like pick one for winner take all. Pivetta's up there. Crochet is probably the one that I would take. It is a gnarly lefty. It's coming at you fast, and it is hard to hit. And he is a workhorse. He threw 205 innings that led Major League Baseball this year. He had 255 strikeouts that led Major League Baseball this year. Um, it's he's probably the best pitcher not named Scooble in this postseason, and Scooble has his own right to that conversation of guys that you would give the ball to in a one game situation. It's the rest of the rotation that worries me. I think the lineup's going to be able to put up runs once again. I think it's the same thing as the Yankees. I don't really worry about the lineup. And I think if you can get to the bullpen, it'll be fine. It's just getting it there. What does the first 5 innings of a game look like? What does the first 6 innings of a game look like? To get it to your Whitlock and your Weiserts and your Chapmans, right? That's the part that worries me. And I think that there's real potential that that runs out of steam, if not in the Yankees series and if not in the Toronto series, then, the CS or the World Series.
Yeah, and the good thing going for Boston is they are playing teams they've played all year. So they at least
Yeah.
know what they're going to get. They have all the scouting reports on them, even more so than what they would against a Seattle, like they would probably see in the CS.
Yeah. Let's wrap this up, man. We got one more team to talk about. It is your 87-75 Detroit Tigers. It has been well documented the fall that they have had, the struggles that they've had lately. So we're not going to dive super deep into all the analytics of that. We're all pretty aware. I'm sure if you're a Tigers fan, you're tired of hearing about it. So we're not going to necessarily discuss it at length, likely. I guess it depends on what Justin's notes are. Um, Look, the no momentum is a concern, obviously, but I think once you hit the postseason, some of that goes out the window because you're like, hey, this is new, right? We have seen teams that have
Through and through.
struggled in and have gone on to win the World Series. We have seen teams that have been on a tear come into the playoffs, and then suddenly it just stops clicking and everything's bad and they're knocked out in the first round. So I think that's kind of a concern. I don't think that's a big concern. I super worry about they don't have great pitching options behind Scooble. And I know it feels like we're just saying pitching a lot, but behind Scooble, it's not awesome. And even the pen, it's not awesome. So we're kind of relying on a lineup which has been really good. To their credit, they've been awesome, but they're going to have to do that in, let's say a 45-degree Detroit night. If they make a run, they're going to have to figure out how to put up a bunch of runs. And obviously that weather will help the pitching also, but like it's a it's a tough environment at home to ask them to put up a bunch of runs, and they're running into a Cleveland team that is okay pitching, and then they're going to run into a Seattle team, which it's tough to hit in that ballpark, and then you're going to run into some version of an AL East team should you get that far, and that's going to be a nightmare to try to put up a bunch of runs. So that's my concern, I think, for them.
Yeah, not to go with the same one as yours, I'm going to bring up the collapse. They almost completely collapsed and missed the postseason, and I do think the momentum thing is a factor, especially because you are playing in the wild card series. You don't have it on your side of saying, okay, how can you now? It kind of felt like this team was so good that we expected to be the team that won 100 plus games, and then ended up at what 85 wins or 87 wins.
Hmm.
So it feels like the switch was turned off, and it's not like you just walk over to this light switch over here and flip it back on and you're fine. Like it feels like the last 2 months of their season, they've had the light switch turned off, and you can't just go and turn it back on. Like it's putting more pressure on Tariq Skubal, who again can soak all that pressure, can perform in that pressure. But now the 1 or 2 games that he starts have to be win day. The like you documented there with the pitching rotation, and even the back half of the bullpen. They're guys that have performed at least well enough to get them here, but do you trust them in the postseason? They're not big names. Vest, Herter, Melton, Holton, Finnegan. That none of those elicit fear to an opposing lineup. In an eighth inning, a ninth inning, and then this offense has had a lot of unsung heroes, you could say, performing for them. They can't really hit home runs. The only two that do are Riley Green and Torkelson. And so the thing is, like, they're not putting up runs in bunches. It's you're scratching and clawing to get runs, and you're hoping pitching can bail you out. And this team, again, can do it. They've done it a lot this year. But Javier Baez has been nowhere. A lot of those guys that were great in the first half, Zach McKinstry, they've been nowhere. And so you look at this and it's like, hey, you've been too cold for too long. And you can't just go. I'm a big vibes guy. You can't just go and flip the vibes and say, "Oh, we're in the postseason. We're 0-0. We're flipping the switch, and we're going to be fine like we were like in June, wrecking havoc over everybody." So it's going to be difficult, and I think it does need to be said. Do I think of all teams the Detroit Tigers can do it? Yeah, because I've seen it before. But it is very hard from the middle side of the game to be able to just flip the switch, turn it on, and say, okay, boom, we're 0-0. Let's go. We've just been dominated by Cleveland the last 2 weeks, but we got them again. Like, it's difficult to do that. Now, I do think they do. But I think if they're not going to win a World Series, it's because they're too cold and they can't just flip they can't flip the switch and get things going because they've been bad for too long now.
Yeah, I think that is a legitimate concern. I don't know, man. We've seen teams go in cold and it works out fine. We've seen teams go in hot and it super doesn't. I won't say that going in cold plays to their favor in any way. I think that they have a real shot at being able to overcome it. There's a lot of holes in this team, and a lot of those have popped up in the last month or so, it feels like all the weaknesses have kind of shown at one time, and that doesn't really happen for a lot of playoff teams. Normally, you have, moments where, hey, the pitching did not work for a couple of weeks, and so, we reeled off let's call it 6-10 for a minute while the pitching was struggling, and then they locked back in. And yeah, that's a concern later. And then hey, the offense didn't really work for a couple of weeks, so we reeled off like a 5-12. But hey, they're back now. Uh, I don't. There's just it feels like a lot of holes were shown in the last couple of months, I guess. Um, and I think there's a lot of worries if you're in Detroit about making a deep run where there wouldn't have been at the deadline because they were one of the best teams in baseball. So I
Yeah,
get
and then you start to question now, like, did you not buy enough? Because you really only got Finnegan, Charlie Morton, who's no longer on your team, and is now already pitched for another team after that. And so yeah, your deadline did not help you at all at this point.
yeah, I don't know. It's there's a lot of questions for Detroit. Not to say they can't overcome it, um, but there's a lot of questions I think for Detroit. Let's I guess wrap this up. Let's talk about the American League as a whole. Uh, what team are you picking to come out of the AL?
Yeah, I'm picking the Seattle Mariners. I know Seattle's maybe got this curse. Boston, I think, is a really close second for me. Like, I think Boston can get by the Yankees. I think their team is just as deep or almost as deep as Seattle. But I feel like I trust Seattle's pitching a little more because of how deep they are with guys that have done it, at least at times. Yeah, like a Logan Gilbert has kind of been hit around a little bit. Castillo's not been as good, but I think the offense is good enough to maintain or overcome that, excuse me. But then you've seen those guys be good enough at times too. Like I feel like Seattle with a really good bullpen, fairly good starting rotation that has been better than what they've been. And then as a lineup that is as deep as almost anybody in Major League Baseball, if not the deepest lineup in Major League Baseball, I think they finally get over the hump and get to a World Series for the first time in their franchise history.
Okay. Okay. I'm going to go. I don't think there's a real unbeatable team. I know we talked about this in the National League, but every single one of these teams has a hole that could get exploited and it could cost them. I mean, we talked about earlier last year, it felt like we had a real bona fide hey, it's going to be the Dodgers and likely it's going to be the Yankees in this World Series because they just are the two best teams and that's what we're rocking to. That is not true this year again. I think if Boston gets through New York, they're my pick. I think that they're the most complete of the teams that I trust. Um, I think that they're better than New York. I think if they get through a 3-game series, it's just such a crapshoot. I get that, and they may not. There's a very real world they get swept on the road. But if they are able to, that's a team that I kind of look at that I think that Boston beats Toronto in a 5-game set.
Yeah.
And then I kind of think that Boston beats any of the teams on the top of the bracket, looking at Detroit, Cleveland, and Seattle in a 7-game set. Um, if they're able to get through New York, that's I think the team that's making it out. If they're not able to, I'll second you. I think it's Seattle. I think again, there's not a
Uh,
super
and I would
unbeatable
agree.
team.
Yeah, I would agree. I think Seattle and Boston are my top two picks there in terms of like, hey, if Boston gets by New York, like it's really I think whoever wins this ALE showdown in the wild card series is them and Seattle. Like now again, Seattle, like I've mentioned, themselves are the only thing stopping them. They need to show up in the DS. But with that being said, with the assumption that they will, it's Seattle and then whatever ALE's team wins that wild card round.
Yeah, I think I would go. I guess Boston, New York are my top two teams. I think New York. They're a win away from being the 1 seed right now. And does that change the way we look at that team? Likely, yes, right? And they're at home. There's a real shot they beat Boston. If they do that, I think they probably beat the Jays and they probably beat the Mariners if they get to that point, right? Um, it's whoever's making it out of that first Boston, New York team to me as the AL representative, but Seattle is the next one after that. The rest of the teams I don't trust that much, but if you're asking me to pick one, I'm going to say Boston right now. I kind of think they have that game one showstopper in Crochet that I'm pretty confident they're going to win that game. And then you just have to win one of the next two. And then we'll see. We'll see what happens. So I can't wait to be super wrong about that. I guess if you made it to the end of this video, I applaud you because this is going to be a long one. I guess, Justin, give us a player to comment at the end.
Yeah, we're gonna go different. We're not gonna go player this time. We're gonna
Okay.
go ball knowledge. Comment the term ball knowledge if you made it to the end of this video, because every single person that made it to the end of this video, you now have ball knowledge. All right. So you're
Yeah.
commenting ball knowledge. I'll see it in the comments. I'll heart it. I'll favorite it. I'll comment on my own personal YouTube channel. You're going to be pinned first person to do it too. So go comment ball knowledge.
Yeah, and hit that subscribe if you're new. And let's get ready to watch some baseball, guys. This is going to be a fun month. And we'll catch y'all in the next one. Take it easy.
Yeah, bye.